Welcome to December 2nd's Fireside Chat. In this installment of Politics for Plebeians, Philosophy for Philistines and Postmodernism Clarified for the Proletariat. Today's vlog is entitled Annus Horribilis and Why. In it, I'm going to examine the progress of bad ideas, which invariably leads society towards social collectivism. And in this, I'm attempting to define 10 stages of that development. The first stage is a rejection of the grand narrative, the story, the tales which have traditionally given life its meaning. These are the things which help define us as a culture. 2, after the rejection of these things, since nature abhors a vacuum, either despair or new, unproven, artificially developed ideas must emerge to fill that vacuum. Okay? 3, since these new ideas will not have evolved naturally so that society can voluntarily adapt, state coercion will be required to force society to adopt them and conform to them. That's stage 3. Stage 4. Coercing society requires a socially collective government with an elite who are sufficiently pathologically narcissistic to develop an ideology which will replace the former grand narrative. And that we certainly have today. You can see that our government is deconstructing everything that was once the premise of our society, including, of course, separation of powers and constitutionally limited representative government. Trudeau, in spite of the fact that he is leading a minority government, is governing us like a titular oligarch. 5, the political elite must turn friends and family against one another to enforce compliance to their new ideologies, resulting in a breakdown of familial and social cohesion. 6, this is a stage in which cancel culture emerges, where a weaponized society begins to police conformity to the new normal, accompanied by social decay and a breakdown of law and order. This is why you see shootings all the time in Toronto. And instead of the government addressing the criminals who are responsible for committing these crimes, the government is attacking law-abiding hunters and sportsmen whose firearms are never used in the commission of these crimes. And it also speaks further to the fact that society has moved so far away from the narrative that once informed Canadians as people of the wilderness and the outdoors. This narrative that once informed us of being a society that certainly understood hunting as a necessity, that the inner cities that have completely sucked in this new cultural reality are so uninformed about their own mojo that they can't relate to law-abiding people harvesting game. Number 7, collapse of voluntary cooperation from all members of society. Since some wish to revivify the former narratives which gave life meaning, as resistance to this new arbitrary order bills And that's why we see, of course, that there are so many protests going on at present about these arbitrary lockdowns. Whether you believe them to be necessary to contain the transmission of this virus or not, the fact remains is that many law-abiding citizens are peacefully protesting about the government trampling on our constitutional rights, which is certainly a legitimate argument. Number 8, since not all will willingly comply to the elite's supercilious dogma, the elite will need to create crisis after crisis, which requires us to surrender our constitutional liberties to the government in the name of the collective good, which is exactly what we're seeing today. Climate hysteria wasn't sufficient for Justin Trudeau and his cadre of wealthy, entitled elite to grab the amount of power they wanted over Canadian society. They had to help create another crisis. I saw this several years ago when I was living abroad, that the government would create crisis after crisis and then emerge as the only ones who could solve said crises that the government alone had caused. Number 9. This leads us to our current reality, where a wealthy, amoral, entitled elite hide behind a perverse new narrative which frames things which were formerly viewed as evil to be beneficial to mankind. Under such systems, the elite will seek to herd humanity like cattle, to create a system which views all human struggle as purely material and based upon power alone. That's why they view everything as a power struggle between the intersectionally identified victim groups that they've created in order to foist this lie upon the public. Number 10, the ultimate conclusion here. And I want you to hear what I'm saying and hear it good. In the end, systems which are based on force, artificial, social collectivism will invariably collapse into murderous, dystopian, destructive regimes because they preclude man's need for meaning, individual sovereignty, and most importantly, will not have evolved naturally out of gradual social change while building on achievements from the past. I teach total quality, and the one thing we know in the development of quality systems is that they're evolutionary, never revolutionary. The Toyota production system did not tear apart the Ford production system, it built upon it. This is how every totalitarian, Orwellian, dystopian nightmare has emerged. Yet amazingly, there will always be those who are sufficiently pathological among us, in places of authority, willing to try it one more time. Because hundreds of millions murdered, tortured, and tyrannized just ain't enough for them. Maybe they'll get it right this time. Now, I don't think they will. In fact, I know they not. But I want to know what... I know they won't, rather. But I want to know what you think. Please post your comments on the video below. Subscribe, ring the bell, and share the heck out of this. You have a lovely December 2nd afternoon.